Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of CoralVue Podcast. My name is Carlos, and I'm here with David Dawkin, owner of CoralVue. What are we doing today? What's going on
Well,
today?
yeah, we're going to talk about a new product release from HYDROS.
Okay, that sounds
Yeah,
fun. I mean, this is going to get some attention nowadays.
I know.
But yeah, so let's talk about before we, it's like
Yeah,
it's like anything else. We're not gonna say the product right away, but
right.
let's talk about why we're coming up with a new product. Is there a
Yeah,
reason? Because I know some people. Let's be honest. Some people have said that we just have too many products,
yeah.
and adding another product is just, oh God, you're making it more complicated.
Mhm.
So what are we doing so that we don't fall into that trap?
You know, Carlos, I was looking back to last year and we did 12 trade shows. We did over 200 store visits. We did surveys. And at all of these places, we're talking to our customers. We're trying to get feedback. What do they like? What they don't like? Mm-hmm.
This is a brand new podcast. This is our second show. So let's introduce our newer listeners, the people that have never watched us. They're just listening to us. What is Hydros? Just let's
Yeah.
do a little recap of what is Hydros, just to catch, to get them caught up.
Yeah, basically, HYDROS is aquarium automation. We're trying to simplify our task in maintaining aquariums, and HYDROS is a device network of tools that can automate your aquarium for you. I think that, in simplest terms, is what HYDROS is. I don't know. What do you think, Carlos?
Yeah, no, that I think that you summed it up pretty well. I don't know if you agree, but the one thing that I think is that we ended up with, in an effort to give everybody what everybody wanted, we
Mm,
ended up with a multitude of different devices,
correct.
which add the versatility and add different starting points. But the other side of the coin is that it did create a little bit of
Hmm.
confusion as to where do I start? Because
Right.
some people do take the time and do the research and they can figure it out. But let's face it, there's people out there that they don't want to take the time. They're
Hmm.
too busy. Just tell me what I need
What I
and I'll
need.
buy it.
Yep.
Yeah, want to
And
buy.
maybe that's an issue, or so much just a product of how CoralVue does this. We've been pretty transparent that we manufacture everything in house.
Hmm.
Everything's built here, so that
Hmm.
allows us to scale very quickly. We
Hmm.
can go from a concept, a conceptualized idea, to putting it to the engineer, to having boards starting to be produced in a matter of weeks. And then
Hmm.
we have a whole new product that is ready to come out. And so we were trying to, hey, let's build this. We can do that. We can do so many things quickly
Hmm.
that maybe that was kind of getting in the way of people understanding and getting confused. I don't know.
Yes.
It
No.
was something that we've talked about a lot internally. And Carlos, the objective, for myself as the owner of CoralVue, is I want to give people tools to be successful in this hobby. And I feel like if people can have success, it leaves them in the hobby and it gains more business down the line. People are happy to be doing this. There's only
Hmm.
one piece of literature or market research that I'm aware of in our industry. It's called APPA, or the American Pet Products Association. In that, they do a lot of statistics and research, and they encompass bird, fish, reptile, all the pet industry. And out of all the hobbies of pet keeping, saltwater aquarium owners are the least likely to stay in this hobby. The average hobbyist stays in for 18 months and gets out.
Wow. Yes.
18 months to make this type of investment into it. And the number one reason, lack of success. They give up.
Yeah.
and
Well,
it, and that's terrible. It hurts. It hurts us. It hurts the entire industry, and we want people to come in. I want to be able to give people tools to be successful and to stay in this. We love it. You and I, we've been doing this. I don't know since I'm 8 years old, but
mhm.
if we can give you tools to be successful, it's our hope that you'll stay in this and enjoy it. And that's what we want.
But it also has to do, I think it has to do with the type of tools as well. Because if you have a tool that is not intuitive,
Yeah.
then it's not going to help you succeed, because you're going to get frustrated, not only
Hmm.
because the livestock and you're not having success, but on top of that, you're getting frustrated because you can't get this darn thing to do what you want it to do,
Yeah.
you know? And we are, I always say, it's 2024, you know,
Hmm.
our phones, this phone right
Yeah.
here, I don't need to type code. I
Mm-mm.
can do so many things without writing a single line of code. You know, uh, I should be able to just tap on a tile. It asks me a couple of questions or a few questions, and then I get going. I shouldn't
Yep.
have to. I shouldn't have to spend time going to Google on how to write the syntax so that the controller can understand what I'm saying.
Hmm.
you know
Yeah.
and that so those tools make it that frustration also adds to that
Absolutely.
short period of the high turnover ratio
Hmm.
in the hobby. you know so we so let's we've talked about
Yep.
this, why we're doing it. We're
Why?
talking about this,
Yep.
why. So let's talk about the actual product now.
Yeah.
So everybody listening to know, this is the first time you're going to hear about this product. It's
Yeah.
brand new from Hydros. If you're a Hydros user, you're going to be thrilled because we're always innovating. We're always coming up with new
Hmm.
products. I know people have, we had the X10 released back in September, and it's been 6 months, and people are thinking, it's like, is CoralVue doing anything? Oh, you have no idea.
You have no
You have
idea.
no idea. You have no
That's
idea what
fun.
we got. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I'll let Dave introduce the new product, since he's the owner. I'll give him the floor.
Okay. Well, thank you, Carlos. Yeah, so we want to introduce you to what we call Hydros Launch. And what is Launch? Why this controller? It's our belief that this is your starting point. This is your takeoff into the Hydros world. You can visually look at this controller and I think get the idea of what you want to do with AC outlets combined into one centralized location. Um, yeah, so
So
we
for
can go over a lot of the
so,
the features of it, and we'll take you through it.
but for our, obviously we have two different audiences here. We have the audience that is watching us on
Yep.
YouTube, but we also have the audience that is listening to us. So
Yep.
let's describe what, let's not go into the features, but let's describe what does this look like? Okay,
Yeah.
so that
Yep.
the people listening to it can actually visualize it. So
Okay.
what it is, it looks like an XP8. So it looks like a
Hmm.
regular XP8 AC strip. And what you're going to do is the right side has the four AC outlets, and on the left hand side we're going to remove outlets 1, 2, 5, and 6. So now you
Yep.
only have a device, the same box, but on the right hand side it has outlets, four outlets, and on the left hand side you're going to have the following. You're going to have four sense ports.
Hmm.
You're going to have four drive ports. You're going to
Yep.
have one pH/ORP Pro port BNC connection, and you're going to have one conductivity/salinity BNC connector. In
Yep.
addition to that, it'll also have the regular blue command bus ports so they can communicate with other devices in the Hydros world. And it also has a 0 to 10 volt input. So you can put a button box, or you can do something like that. So
Doors.
that's what doors, switches,
Hmm.
other types of sensors, CO2 sensor, humidity sensor, all these other things. That there's a lot of sensors out on Amazon and eBay that are analog, and then you'll
Yep.
be able to connect them in there. So if that's the description I would give for our listening audience, that's what the
Yep.
launch looks like. Which, Dave, intuitively, even if
Mm.
you don't know what it does, or even
Yeah.
if you've never heard of the HYDROS, even if you've never
Yep.
seen a HYDROS, I think you'll be able to somehow
Yeah.
figure out that, okay, these are my sensors. This is where I
Hmm.
plug in my heater. This is where I plug this. Anything.
Yep.
It's just visualize it,
Hmm.
which is
Yep.
gonna we hope it solves the question of where do I
Where?
start? Yes,
Absolutely.
because Dave, right? We want to make this our kind of like our flagship product. This is the one
Yeah.
that you should levitate to.
Yeah. If somebody's just looking to get into a controller and they're asking questions, well, where should I start? This is your launch point. This is where
That
you can get in, and then you may be like, well, it only has 4 AC ports or outlets, and I'm like, no problem. XP8 gives you 8 more. So I need more sense ports. Okay, no problem. You can get an XS, or you can kind of get your feet wet with this device, and
you
that's
can
that's
you
kind of
can
what we got.
you can grow with it. This is your starting
Yeah.
point.
Yep.
This is your first controller. And on top of that,
Hmm.
instead of wasting out, like, you get past the 18 months and you get more fancy, as we
Yeah.
say, and you're developing more sensors, and you're like, your needs grow. At that
Right.
point, you don't have to go in, okay, now I'm going to have to get rid of this
Oh, I
controller,
got to get rid of
spend
this
money
thing.
again, and then get another one that can do more things. No.
Nope.
No, you still keep that main control, and all you do is you're adding different brains with different features, and you're creating
Hmm.
this network that
Yep.
becomes a one controller that can do multiple things. So the launch, Dave, does it work
Hmm.
like any other brain? Does it have a brain? Can you save the configuration?
Absolutely.
What happens?
Yeah.
How does it work?
Yeah. So this, like all Hydros devices, it has an internal brain. It can be used as a standalone device. You don't need anything else to go with it. You take it home and set it up, and it can be your one and only controller. Or it, like we said, it can be the start of an even more robust system. So all the programming is the same via our app. Nothing's changed with that. Very simple, easy to use, visual forms, no code writing, anything like that. So, and we'll take you through, through instructional videos and things like that to get set up.
But the benefit also is that for those people that are already in the HYDROS world,
Hmm.
it works just like every other device. There's
Yep.
no other, just because you have a new controller doesn't mean you have to learn new features. If on your previous HYDROS device you added a temperature sensor, the launch would be exactly the same thing. You'll be able to add the sensor. So that's the beauty about the HYDROS world, is that we build on the same knowledge base that you already have. We're not asking you
Hmm.
to try to reinvent the wheel every time we add a new device. So the device actually is 9.5 inches tall by 4 3/4 wide. So it's actually, it's a yay
Hmm.
size, so I described that for our listening audience. It's a relatively small footprint.
Right.
And the great thing about it, Dave, it's not IP65 because of the
At
outlets,
outlets.
but it's still built in that rugged, you know, um, um,
Hmm.
industrial
It's
materials
a
that
Yep.
Hydros is known to have. It's built
Yeah.
for the environment.
And that's what we're going to stay with, Carlos. Anybody that's been in this for any length of time and putting equipment under their cabinet, which is, let's be honest, 90% or more of this, the hobbyists, that's where they're placing their equipment. It's subjected to splash. It's subjected to high humidity, high heat. So we're trying to build something that's not a toy. We want something that can withstand the elements that it's being placed in. So
Hmm.
yeah, we can't say it's IP65 because of the outlets, but it's built with all of the components that we've used on everything else. Now, if you have all the outlets plugged in, it makes it even more robust to taking
Mhm.
splashes and anything getting into the actual copper inside the outlets.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but again, it's not
it's
IP65,
not.
so it's like
Yep.
do not allow it to splash because
Right.
it's like the same thing as splashing a power strip. You don't want to do that.
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
so let's talk about no. So let's talk about the individual features because I know people are
Hmm.
dying to know. Okay, so I went over a little bit, but let's talk about them. So Dave, it comes with 4 sense ports. So
Yep.
these are universal sense ports. So just like we know, these are the green labeled ports,
Hmm.
and what they do is kind of like leak detector, uh, TDS meter, water sensor, all the water
Hmm.
level sensor,
Flow
and so
meters.
forth, flow meters, exactly. Anything that can provide information to the controller. You have 4 different ports, so you have a list of all the sensors. Pick 4, pick 4
Hmm.
of those, and those are that you connect. If you later want to change them to a different 4, you can do that. You don't have to buy special hardware because you want to use a leak detector, because the leak
Right.
detector sensor doesn't work with a temperature sensor. No, they all connect to this green port, and that makes it easier for the customer. So also,
Hmm.
what else, Dave? It comes with 4 drive
Uh,
port, right?
4 drive ports. These are ports that provide power, 12-volt output. So we're talking about ATO, little pumps for your ATO, solenoids, fans, anything that needs output power to that you can turn on and off, cabinet
What
lights, things
what I
like
love
that.
about what I love about it, Dave, is that it's because of the drive ports. I don't need to waste an AC outlet
Correct.
on a tiny little fan
On a, yeah,
or a little
or a power
solenoid.
supply that's plugged
Exactly.
into an AC. Yep.
I can save the 4 AC outlets for
Hmm.
heaters and lights, something that is more
Exactly.
powerful. Well, the low voltage 12-volt thing, I can run it on the small one. And you know what the great thing
Hmm.
about it is that when you're running them on those drive ports, you're getting rid of that power supply. That little wall
Oh yeah.
wart, the little wall wart, it's gone
Yeah.
because the internal power supply inside the launch actually
Hmm.
takes over. I love that. So it
Yeah.
also has one ORP and pH probe BNC
Yeah.
connector. I often get this question: is like, which probe is compatible with the HYDROS? And just like any other device, the launch, as long as the pH probe has a BNC connector,
See. Yeah.
it's compatible.
Hmm.
It's compatible.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what brand it is. You could buy
Yep.
any brand you want, as long as it comes with a BNC connector, it will be compatible.
Hmm.
Okay. And also comes with a salinity probe, right, Dave? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not even,
Absolutely.
it's included.
Well, it's not including the conductivity probe, but the port to
Mhm.
facilitate salinity or conductivity is included on this
And it
controller.
and it's also a BNC connector. So
Correct.
with HYDROS, we're trying to make go back to standard. I know that
Yeah.
that's another thing that we decided to do when we first started doing HYDROS was we want to be able to make it standard. I want people, it's like, yes, if people want to buy from us, I'll sell you the probe. But if you want to go to
Hmm.
Amazon and buy the probe yourself, that's fine. I don't care.
Right.
I'm okay
Yep.
with that. But I'm not going to lock you into a product that you have to buy the probe from me because it's got a special
Right.
connector that really doesn't do anything different than just
Exactly.
keep you make sure that you keep
Locked
going
into
back in
you.
here. And yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
No. And if you go anywhere else in the outside the industry, the standard connector is a BNC connector. pH
Yeah.
probes, BNC connector. Conductivity probes, BNC connector. So why should I make it? So just like the pH probe, any brand, it'll work.
Hmm.
Now, even the K factor, you can select between the K1 and the K10. So if you want to go with the
Yeah.
K1, you can. If you want to go with a little higher end probe, you go with the K10, depending on what you're doing. If you're doing fresh water, K1. If you're doing salt water, K10. Again, we give you that versatility.
Correct.
All right. And then 0 to 10-volt port in. What is that, Dave? I mean, that's one of the more versatile,
Yeah.
useful, yet obscure ports in the
I
hobby.
know.
So
Yeah.
care to explain that?
Yeah, 0 to 10 is basically a communication protocol, and it's fairly robust. A lot of things that you can control with 0 to 10. And any third party devices that have this, you can integrate through this port.
Yeah, now let's make sure that we clarify to our users there is a 0 to 10 volt out port, which is something that you would use when you're controlling a light. So the controller, think of the 0 to 10 as a volume control. You know,
Yeah.
it's a knob that goes from 0 all the way to 10, or, you know, the equivalent 0 to 100. Doesn't matter. But what you do is on an out port, the controller, the HYDROS would send 1 volt out. And then the unit receiving the light receiving would see 1 volt. The unit would translate that volt into 10%. And then if you send 5 volts, it's 50%. And that's how you control the intensity. But this launch also comes with a 0 to 10 volt import. So what that does is there's a lot of devices, there's a lot of sensors that are sold for other industries. And those sensors have a wire connection and they're analog, which means that what they do is like a temperature, let's say a humidity sensor. A humidity sensor is just a sensor. It's got a wire, and the sensor, if it measures 50% humidity, it'll send 5 volts. And then the controller takes those 5 volts and converts that into 50%. If it sends you 5.1, it's 51%. So that's what we're doing. So there's humidity sensors, there's temperature sensors, there's CO2 sensors that you can put into this controller and actually get information back into it. So we may not sell the sensor, but you can buy an analog sensor on Amazon or eBay, connect it to the controller, and it'll work, and you'll be able to get stuff in it. That's the versatility of a 0 to 10 volt sensor. In addition to that, though, Dave, also we can do door sensors, like open door. So it will detect when the door is open. Also, float switch sensors. Some people out there don't like the optical sensors.
Opticals, yeah.
So they just do a float switch sensor. So while, you know, we also have float switch sensors that can connect to the 0 to 10 volt, and that's great. So that's what the 0 to 10. But I think that we saved the best feature for last, Dave, and that is the 4 AC outlets.
Yeah. Yeah. You combine that on it, it speaks for itself, you know. Everybody's got AC out devices they're going to need to plug in for AC power. Having the 4 on board just makes it that much easier.
You know, and it's no slouch either, because each outlet can do up to 8 amps, and the total draw of the entire unit is 13 amps. So it can actually handle a fair amount of power, and therefore heaters and then lights and so forth. There's always a limit, but it can it can handle well. So I mean, this is a very strong candidate to become the go-to controller when it comes to HYDROS. You know? Now, let's talk about programming. Programming how is programming done? HYDROS app.
Yep.
That HYDROS app that the HYDROS app that it walks you through with the WYSIWYG, it has the pictures, the forms, asks you questions. That's the same app. There's absolutely no programming. You don't have to write any code, you know, and that's what makes it great. And then Dave, cloud, big time, right?
Yeah. I mean, all the storage is done on the device itself and in the cloud. This is really important, you know, that things are backed up. You put a lot of time and effort into, you know, setting up your controller. You want to make sure it's backed up.
Yes, exactly. And you can access that. So the cloud allows you to access your previous versions. And anytime you upload a change, that version of the configuration is saved to the cloud. So let's say you make a mistake or something, and then you, instead of undoing every change, or you can't remember what you did, you know what? I'll just go back to last week on Friday, because I know that everything was working back then. Yeah, exactly. So I'll just go there, look up last week Friday, upload the configuration, and I'm good to go. How easy is that? Which is something that no other controller in the industry gives you. You know, this is something that, you know, this controller was developed in the it was developed in the 21st century.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. All right, Dave. Let's get to the nitty gritty here. What
Yeah,
the people have been asked, the people have been waiting for. I know people are
right.
excited about the features, but it's like, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, what's it
tell
going to
me what
cost?
what's it gonna cost? So, Dave,
Yeah,
what will be the cost of the launch?
$549.99.
So you're getting this controller for
Mm-hmm.
$549.99. It has all those
Yeah,
features for $549.99 with the
yeah,
HYDROS app and everything it can check. That's a steal. That is a
yep.
steal. All right. And then I promise you, this is not going to be something that is going to be there. You see,
It's not
this is some,
vaporware. It's
yeah,
happening.
no, it's
It's
happening.
almost there.
We
So,
have it. It's not
yeah,
vaporware, so it'll be ready. So I promise you, or we promise you, it's not
yep.
something that is going to be 6 months from now. It's not something that's
No,
going to be years from now. It's actually something that's going to be weeks from now. This is great, Dave.
yeah.
I
I hope
mean,
people like it, and I hope they get the concept, and I hope they're happy to see or hear that we're listening. We're not just throwing our noses up. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. No, we wanna hear your feedback. We want to know what people want from us and a controller, and that's what we're trying to do.
yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to us on the
Yep.
podcast. Thank you for watching us on YouTube. If you have any questions about the podcast, or if you have any questions about any of the products, or heck, if you have a question about a product of CoralVue that we didn't cover, it doesn't matter. Head on over to support.coralvue.com, and one of the reps there is going to be able to answer your question rather quickly. Also, if you're listening to podcasts, if you stumbled on this podcast, make sure you subscribe, because when you subscribe, you'll get a notification right away that a new episode is available. Also, subscribe to your YouTube channel or head on over to Facebook and check out our HYDROS Facebook group. On behalf of Dave, myself, Carlos, and our producer, April, thank you so much for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time.